restrictions and whatever, or even in Toronto where and Peel region where they shut down restaurants, etc. Again, I'm saying why not call on the military to open up temporary intensive care units in public spaces, and we have the ability to do this in order to prevent our healthcare system from being overwhelmed. Now, on the question of the passports or whatever you want to call them, again, first of all, I don't believe that it makes a difference. I don't think that we should have compulsory vaccinations. I'm not against having the vaccine myself. I am saying haven't said I'll definitely do it. I'm saying I'll probably get the vaccine, but there's no reason to make it compulsory, which is basically what this passport thing would essentially do. They could say, well, we're not going to make it compulsory, but you won't be able to go to see a movie in the cinema unless you produce this card. And that, I think, is very, very, very dangerous in a free society for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't think it's necessary at all from a health point of view. Okay, as I've, again, pointed out over and over and over again, I don't see this as being a health crisis. I see this as being a bureaucratic crisis in the healthcare system, number one. But number two, and here's my prediction, okay? My prediction is, as with all government documents that restrict your behavior, if you don't have them, what we're going to do here, Nick, guaranteed, we're going to create a whole black market in counterfeit COVID-19 certificates, or vaccine certificates.
I wouldn't doubt that for a second, Joseph. And doesn't it defeat the whole purpose?
Well, and here's the funny thing, okay? So people are going to spend money for this stuff. They don't want to get the vaccine, but they're going to find some way to have a counterfeit card, which of course is going to compel the government to spend lots of money creating a whole security regime around these cards, so that like we do with our dollars and our passports, etc., that these are not just cards that you get, but they have to be encoded properly, and they have to be properly designed so that they're not easily counterfeited. All of this is going to cost money. All of this is going to make the whole rigmarole so much more, just add more costs on to the costs that we've already had to absorb as a result of the responses that we've had. And here's the thing, you're going to have all of these cards circulating, and people are not going to be getting the vaccine, and the infection rate is going to go down because people will be getting the vaccine. Okay, not everybody will be. And this is what's going to happen, is then the government bureaucrats are going to give themselves a pat on the back and declare victory. And then it'll be on to the next crisis, the next fad.
Well, I was going to say, and let the feeding begin, because once you get to the point where they have to start making sure that these documents are secure, like your passport, dollar bills, those kind of things, that's where a lot of the growth will take place, because they'll say, oh, well, based on new technology, we need to increase the level of security. And that can go around and around and around in circles until we now have a ministry as big as defense. And it's absolutely asinine to think that this is not going to turn into this monster of an organization that we never wanted, don't need, and is going to be just a fiend to feed. And we don't have the money for it anyway.
And of course, you know that once we've designed this card to verify that you've had the vaccination for COVID-19, it's only a very, very small jump to saying, well, let's make sure that we have all of our vaccinations recorded on this card. So now you may not be able to go into a school, unless a public school, unless you have this card and it shows that you've been vaccinated. or this or that or the other thing. And hey, why not have other things on the card as well? Why not have your driver's license? Why not have your social insurance number on it? And then once we're down here, and you know, I sound like a bit of a conspiracy theorist when I'm talking this way, but believe me, I'm not trying to be. Maybe it's worst case scenario. Maybe we don't have anything to fear anyway. I leave it to listeners to make their own judgments on this. But here's the next step. Okay, once we have cards with all of this information on, including our health information, well, what about biometrics? Why not just simply insert a chip into, you know, the neck or the hand or wrist or whatever of people, and so that they just have to scan their hand. And you know, you could get now rings, for instance, with all of kinds of information, including, you know, you see people doing their credit card scans with purchases with their smartphone. I do it myself. Do you know I could get a ring that's programmed the same way? The technology's there, and but maybe I don't know whether they've credit card companies have gone there yet, but they certainly could. But those rings are on the market now, where I can have my door locks. Just instead of having a card, I have the code and whatever the transmission apparatus built into my ring, so I just touch my ring to the lock, and you know, click, the door unlocks. So that's where. So if I could do that with my ring, and by the way, I haven't. I'm just saying that the technology exists and they are available. But if I could do that with my ring, so small, why can't I have a chip simply inserted, installed, and so that's the direction we're going. And I don't, you know, I don't want to sound the alarm over it. It sounds real science fiction. It sounds, you know, too slippery slope, whatever. And I know people don't like it, but the slippery slope argument is actually a very genuine argument. It's a very real phenomenon when it comes to societal change and growth and expansion and the scope and the power of government.
Well, there's lots of reasons not to like this. Some people are going to have religious objections. Some people are going to have privacy objections. And all of these are valid concerns. I mean, if you want freedom of movement, but you carry a chip, who says they can't track that chip? Or if they want to track that chip, they can turn it on. You know what I mean? Like, if there are those who are going to make the case, to carry your logic on a little further, instead of wearing that ankle bracelet, they just slip a little diode under the skin on the hand or somewhere, that if a criminal tries to leave, who's out on probation or in a halfway house or under house arrest, tries to leave a particular area, beep, 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 and all of a sudden the authorities are all over them. Nobody's going to want to argue against that, but if they could do it with a criminal, how much of a stretch is it to do with people who are political activists, who are, just people who don't want, there's all kinds of problems with this.
All you simply do is you install a GPS in every single chip. And that way, you may not be being tracked in real time, but if a question comes up about what your activities were, and the government wants to see where you've been, they can already do it with going to GPS with a warrant to your phone company if you have your GPS on your smartphone. Why can't they do it with a little chip? Well, the answer is they can. So why not just install a GPS in everybody's chip, and then insert that chip in your arm or in your ankle at birth? It doesn't bother you. You don't know it's there. I mean, you know it's there, but it's not bothering you. And every time you get something updated, you get a vaccination, for instance, or you get a speeding ticket, or you get a criminal conviction, whatever. All of that information is on that chip. There it is.
And that's what is terrifying about it.
It's it's easy to sit back and say, I don't see a problem with this. But it's also, it doesn't take a great imagination to see how something like this could go very, very, very wrong. And here's the thing is, do you trust your government, but do you trust government generically overall, irrespective of who's in charge? Right now, I don't think that anyone that's in charge of the government in this country would use such technology for malevolent purposes. But who knows? 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, we just don't know. So do we want to go down that road? I say, no, we don't.
And I agree with you 100% because let's face it, that is a very, very claustrophobic and pothole-filled road.
Indeed it is. And with that, I'm looking at the clock, and I see we're coming up to the top of the hour. So this is a good time for us to take a break, catch our breath. If you have to get up and stretch your legs, if you're listening to the live show, do that. But hurry back because we're going to get into American politics in the next segment. If you're listening to the broadcast or the podcast, that'll be segment number 3 that'll be posted on Monday morning, and you won't want to miss it anyway. We get to talk American politics, and man,
that's always fun.
Well, if it's not fun, it certainly is interesting right now. Okay, so we'll be back in a few minutes here on the Nick and Joe Show on ThinkRadio.ca.